Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. Today's guest is actor Alan Heitz. Alan was the very first guest that I recorded for this show when I first started getting all this stuff going back at the beginning of the pandemic in April or May. So this week is going to be a double shot of Alan Heitz. You're going to get today's episode of him talking about his life and how he, became an actor and moved to Los Angeles and all of that. And then later in the week, we're going to get a bonus episode where we talk about the movie Repo Man. They started out being movie reviews, but they very quickly became just me and my friends talking about movies that we loved. And so yeah, Alan, I'm very happy to have Alan on. I was happy that he spent time talking with me in his busy life. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the little bell and share it if you think somebody you know might want to check it out, and hit like, and please feel free to comment if you have something to add to the conversation. If you are listening to this podcast, hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast content. Feel free to leave a review. That stuff really matters a lot to the podcast networks. And as always, you can find us on social media at Anyway Whatever Podcast. On Instagram, my personal Instagram is at Maximum Fluoride for my art and design. On Twitter, we're at AWP_podcast. And you can always find all of our content at www.anyway-whatever-podcast.com. All right, check out Alan Heitz today and again later on this week. Hey everybody, welcome to the Anyway Whatever podcast. My name is Mike Fisher, and today's guest is funny man Alan Heitz. Hey Alan, how are you?
Hey, happy pandemic, everybody.
Yeah, no shit. That's going to date this like 5 years from now. Yeah. People will be watching this on YouTube and be like, oh yeah, remember that shit? Yeah. Alan is a working actor and a comedian, and he's got the thing he's got coming up. I know of is he's going to be on an episode of is it just one episode?
It's just one episode
on the Perry Mason.
Perry Mason. It's a series coming out. So on HBO.
The new HBO Perry Mason. Alan's on that. Alan's been in a million things. He's one of those dudes who works. He is a working professional actor in Hollywood, California, which is. That's not something everybody can manage to achieve. A lot of people come here to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I realized, me and Alan have a mutual friend, and that they know each other through acting and comedy. And one of the things that was funny is I moved to LA 25 years ago, like. In February was my 25th anniversary, and I had mentioned on Facebook that I lived at Sunset in Doheny, like right behind Gil Turner's liquor store, and apparently right around the same time, Alan was living about a block down the street and south off of Sunset on La Brea, right?
Well, yeah, it was actually my roommate lived kind of down there. Yeah, me and my roommate, we got a place in like a long time ago. I can't really remember it. It was just ridiculous, but it was like right down from the whiskey, and there was that that bar Red Rock. We would go there all the time, and there was Duke's. We would always go to Duke's and eat at their diner there. It was awesome.
Oh wow, nice. So you've been here about 25 years too, then, right?
Yeah, I came out here in '97, so.
Yeah, so yeah, I was already.
Yeah.
I'd already moved to my family down here and was like doing the domestic thing in Park La Brea.
Oh boy.
Yeah, right. So where did you grow up?
I grew up right outside of Washington D.C. and
right. That would explain why you love the Orioles.
Yeah, it's probably the only reason why that would explain it, because who would like the Orioles? So.
I have another guest coming up soon who's a Baltimore guy who's like an Orioles guy too. So there's at least two of you that I know.
Yeah, they're devoted. So even through thick and thin, it was like 15 years of just losing. so when you see somebody else with the hat on, you're like, yeah, I know you.
I've been down there in the trenches with you. I think that's really the sign of a true fan of anything, right? Is somebody who can love something when it's at its absolute worst, and especially if it's at its worst for a long time.
Well, it's like I also got a friend. He's a Cleveland Browns fan, so he is just. It's really bad. But it's like every year there's always that optimism of like, hey, I think this year is going to be the year. So,
maybe it's it. Maybe we turn it around.
Yeah, we got it. I think we're good. I think we're really good. And you're like, nah. Then you start losing. It's awesome.
I'm kind of famously don't like any sports, aside from hockey. And I don't even really like hockey that much. I'm a goalie, so I just pay attention to goalie stuff. But I do like boxing. But I love the HBO show, the Hard Knocks training camp show.
Yeah.
And every year I watch it, and then every year I kind of loosely pay attention to however the team that was on this season did throughout the season. So a couple seasons ago it was the Browns, and I was like, and even I was like, hey man, I think the Browns can really turn it around this year. And then they had like the worst. They like won one game or something.
Oh yeah, they're just the absolute worst. And they always switch out their quarterbacks like every year. And there's my friend. He's just like every time he's like, no, I think we got a chance this year. You're like, I don't think you do. So
yeah. So do you do stand up? Or have you previously?
I do not do stand-up. I don't even consider myself a comedian, really. I just consider myself like an actor that does comedy, and comedy seems to be something I'm good at, but I would never like sit there and go like, oh yeah, I'm a comedian, or that's what I do. Right. I mean, I don't really do stand-up. My wife does stand-up actually. But
yeah, I went online and watched some of her clips. She's hilarious.
She's good.
I gotta get her on here.
Yeah,
she's really funny.
But she just also loves being on stage too. So that's the thing. It's not really like, oh, I want to do stand up per se. It's like I just kind of want to be on stage, Right.
Yeah. Well, I get that. And in LA, there's so many open mics. You could just go up and be on stage every night, pretty much if you wanted to.
Pretty much every night you can. Yeah.
Yeah. I have like a lifelong fantasy that one day I'm just going to do an open mic stand-up thing and just not care if I'm funny, just kind of do it so I can like just knock it off the list of shit that I've always wanted to do. That because I'm kind of big on that. I'm kind of big on like just doing whatever it is I feel like doing and not being afraid of it, which explains this whole podcast, this fucking podcast thing. I always wanted my own TV show and now I can have it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think one day I'll try to do a stand-up set, but we'll see.
I don't know. It's like I kind of do my stand-up on Facebook posts and Twitter.
Right.
I just kind of do my stand-up on there, and I kind of hide behind that, so I don't really feel like I need to be doing stand-up. So because I do that, so.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I guess that's kind of been my platform for the last decade is like I can be funny on Facebook, and with this pandemic thing, I actually came up with the idea for the podcast last summer, and I just didn't quite get to it because I got busy. And one of the things that when this whole pandemic lockdown started, like I was like, you know what, maybe I should start doing the podcast or the YouTube channel thing. And my wife was like, well, I mean, with all the comments and shit you get on your Facebook page every day, like you have an audience, maybe you should just, go for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not? I don't have a lot else to do right now.
Who does right now? It's just,
I know. Right. I thought it was funny. I have it. I have a cheat sheet that I have everybody send me information on their on what they want to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. And I had Alan send me his, and one of the questions is, what does the guest do for their main gig? And Alan's answer was, right now, nothing.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, that's pretty much true.
Although I'm getting a lot of home projects done, so
Well, that was the other thing you answered was, what is your hobby? And you said, you like fixing things, but nobody really fixes things anymore. So I guess you've solved that problem at least a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I don't know. My dad just taught me just open things up and see how it works. And if it's broken, just try to fix it. So.
All right. Is it like, are you good with mechanical stuff and electronic stuff, or just kind of everything or nothing or whatever?
Kind of everything. I mean, my freaking cat came in here. Yeah, I just whatever. I get, I used to like build computer systems, and then I'm like, oh, I'll just build this computer and put it in there. And or like today, my stupid old ass tape deck, the door broke on the cassette deck thing. So I was like, oh, I'll just fix it. And, I took it apart and tried to fix it. So.
Was it a success?
It was not a success because it's actually broken, and I would have to get a part for it. Like if I need to get a 3D printer and like make a new a cassette door so I can put it in there, or I can just probably find it somewhere for $10 as for parts and snap it.
Right, you find one on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, totally.
For $10, and but a part of my graphic design style is borrows all the way back to my days. When I first started doing like flyers for punk bands and stuff in the 80s, it was like the photocopier, the old school analog photocopier. And I had one for forever and ever, 15, 20 years. I had this thing, and about a year ago, the body on it just came apart because it's like spring loaded, right, to keep it all together. And the spring just came through the plastic, and trying to replace an analog photocopier, I haven't been able to find one.
Well, it's funny because it's like I bought this cassette deck. I don't really use cassette decks anymore or anything like that, but I bought it in like 1993. It's a top of the line cassette deck, and here I am like 20 something years later going like, oh, well, it's made of plastic. It's a piece of shit. So I'm like, oh, great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of those things, like I just packed away my cassette carrying case because I haven't had a cassette player in forever, and I collect records, but I don't own a record player at the moment.
I just got a new record player actually, so.
It's like I just want to have records because they're so cool. And like when I was a little kid, that's what made me really want to be an artist, was going through my parents' record collection and looking at all the covers. And I was like, right. I want to make those.
Well, it's funny because it's like I went through this whole process of converting everything over to digital, and I have everything in digital. I can sit there and Alexa, play this or do whatever, and I can easily summon it up on my phone. But I don't know. It's like once I had kids, my kids just see me on the phone doing it, and it's just they just think I'm on the phone. Whereas the process of taking out a record, putting it on the record player, turning it on, same thing with the CD player, pushing the button, it ejects, you put it in there. They seem to like the process of things. And the same thing with the cassette deck. You put this thing in and tape in there and shut it and push play, and then you fast forward and it does this But they're totally really into the process of things. So I've been like, everything I did that I put everything into the digital form, I'm now going back to analog because of the kids. Same thing, like
Yeah.
my even my paper, like I get the paper every day and I would get it on my iPad. And now
Uh-huh.
my kid sees me on the iPad. I'm like, oh, well, I'll get the paper. He can see that I'm reading the paper. So
Yeah. I remember when I was in grade school, they taught us how to read a newspaper, like
yeah.
how to fold it properly so that you could read it and then flip it and then read the other side and then flip it. That was like a whole part of curriculum. Like that is like some, I remember they taught us how to balance a checkbook, like how to read a clock, like all this shit that kids will never have to learn. It's weird.
I'm actually like, I'm looking on eBay to try to get like those old ass alarm clocks with the flip, I just want to get it, because
that it was like a fake digital effect.
Yeah,
it was like the letters even looked digital, but they weren't. They were just on little plastic cards.
Yeah. So it's like, I want to get that because, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh, what time is it? I don't know. So at least you could like look and see, oh, the time's that. So.
Right. Yeah. I just have like a regular old digital. So I can wake up at 4 a.m. every single night and then like lay there for 2 hours staring at the clock until I fall back asleep.
I have my damn cats. They wake me up at 4 a.m. every night.
Yeah. We have a dog. We have a basset hound, and it's like every morning at 6 o'clock he's in the room like, hey, it's time to eat. Like,
hey.
No matter, like, and then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, no matter what you're doing, he's like, hey, guess what? It's time to eat.
Yeah. Well, my cat does it at 4 o'clock every morning on the dot.
Jesus Christ. Like, just like I'm going to wake you up to fuck with you because I'm a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hungry.
Because that's what fucking cats do. Cats are, I'm not much of a cat person. I'm not an anti-cat person or anything, but cats, I think my problem with cats has always been that cats just don't need you really. And so like they like a dog needs you. A cat doesn't fucking need you.
That's what I love about cats.
And there's something about having a pet that doesn't really need you that's kind of weird.
Yeah. It'd be awesome though, but yeah.
I had cats growing up, and I was like horribly allergic to cats when I was a kid. I'm basically horribly allergic to everything on planet Earth, and so, but I had cats when I was a kid anyway, and so I do actually appreciate cats. It's just we haven't never had one. I've never had one as an adult. I don't think even my kids didn't have cats when they were growing up, and.
Yeah, I got
always basset hounds. I've had like 7 basset hounds in the last 20 years.
Well,
all from the Basset Hound Rescue of Southern California,
oh, wow.
By the way.
Basset hounds don't really last that long, though, do they? They're not
12 years-ish,
Yeah.
I mean, we just saw one that was up for adoption on the Basset Rescue page that was 18.
Ooh.
We couldn't even believe it. Our dude's 12, so he's getting up there, but 18 gave us a lot of hope. We were like, holy shit, that's old for most dogs.
Yeah, they got bad hips, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, hip stuff, and he's got major eye problems. Like in the last 3 years, it's just been nonstop shit with his eyes. Like we were just at the vet doing the fucking weird COVID-19 vet dance. Where they like come out to the car and get him, and they take him in, and then the vet calls and you have the consultation by phone.
In the car?
Yeah, she calls we're sitting in the car. She calls the cell phone, tells us what's going on, and then when it's over, they bring the dog back out, stick him in the car, and we drive home. It's super weird. We had to do that like the first couple days of the shelter in place. He started like, we found out he had vertigo, so he was like he couldn't move or really walk. He'd just fall down. Ugh. So we had to take him to an ER. And that was like the procedure. And we like parked out front. There was like a number on the parking space. And they're like, what space are you in? We're like, number 3. And then they came out and got him. And it was a fucking trip, man. They had to like gurney him because he couldn't walk. It was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. This basset hound strapped to a gurney.
Jeez. That's crazy.
So with your acting, how long do you suppose it took for you to be in LA before you were actually able to like not have to work a day job? Because you act full time, if I'm not mistaken.
Right now, this past year or so, 2 years, well, year and a half. I mean, I did work for a radio station last year.
Right, I remember you worked at KLOS, right?
Yeah.
On the Heidi, Frosty, and Frank show?
No, for Jonesy's Jukebox.
Oh, Jonesy's Jukebox.
Yeah.
What did you do on that?
I did the online stuff, like Facebook
okay.
and all that, Instagram, digital,
Okay.
all the digital
that explains
stuff.
A hat.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to. Well, I worked with Jonesy a long time ago at the other radio station for Indie 103.1, so they just kind of called me.
Oh, right. My friend Joe Sib had a show on there, and actually Joe Sib's going to be on the podcast. I'm just trying to schedule his time right now because he had he was doing a live stream today with Jesse Mallon, and so we're trying to figure out when I'm going to actually have him on. Me and Joe grew up together. We've been friends since we were like 13 or 14 years old.
Tell him I said hi.
Oh, yeah?
Did
you know him over there?
Yeah. If he remembers.
Oh, wow, nice. Yeah. Nice. You are the third person today that I've talked to that I had to bring him up, and all three people knew him.
Yeah.
It was a fucking trip. It was a total trip.
Yeah.
That dude gets around.
Yeah. Well, I worked at Indie, so he had that.
Right. It was like Indie 103. Was that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you worked you did other stuff in the music industry as well?
Yeah. My roommate was a publicist. He still is a publicist, but he was a publicist for like MCA and Universal and Geffen and all that. And then he's got he now works at the Forum. He does all their stuff.
Oh.
So
okay.
But he got me in with MCA, because I was just a struggling actor and I needed a job.
Sure.
I didn't want to work with
Sure.
So I knew how to do like computers and all that stuff. So he was like, "Hey, you should try to be in the digital department at MCA." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I talked to a few people there and I got in. So that's how I.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Was that like 90s, 2000s or?
Yeah, it was around 2000.
When there still was record labels that like.
Mm-hmm. It was record. It was great.
Like
it was great working on a record label around that time. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I worked for like Blink 182, mostly.
Okay.
Most of their stuff. So.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I when I first moved down here, I figured out pretty quick that I moved down to LA to get into the video game industry. I got a job as an illustrator on a game in like 95, and I figured out within the first couple years that I really would have preferred to be like a freelance illustrator, like do like rock posters and album covers and stuff. So I started doing as much of that as I could, and Joe Sib actually was did a bunch of work for his record label when they were just Side One Dummy Records, when they were first starting out, and he hooked me up with like all these big labels, Sony Records, and all these A&R guys, and it was a fun time to be involved with the record business because it was just before streaming was coming and nobody knew it was coming, and I did some work with Interscope, and the company that I was at was a multimedia company, and we kind of developed the CD Plus technology. So we did a thing with Interscope where they gave us a bunch of artists to do CD Pluses for to see what, just to kind of test out the technology. We did like Marilyn Manson's first record and stuff, and that was pretty fun. I really liked it. And that was what really pushed me into like trying to do the music industry stuff. And then it took me 15 fucking years to be able to get out of games to be able to do what I do. But
right.
I made it.
Success.
It's been 10 years by myself on my own, starving, not making any money. Is a friend of mine, a very, very wise friend of mine who was one of the last, art directors in the video game industry that I worked for, had a really smart way to view working full-time or working freelance. And he said, with freelance, you trade the illusion of freedom for the illusion. You trade the freedom that I sound like George Bush now. You trade with freelance, you trade the illusion of security for the illusion of freedom. And I was like, God damn it, that's right. Because you think you're going to have all this time to do whatever you want, and then you just work fucking 20 hours a day.
Yeah, it's like I go to stints where I don't have to work because the acting pays my way, but also, you know, I've worked in restaurants and bartend and, you know, do offers and all that stuff. So it's just a matter of trying to hustle, trying to get some money.
Right. Yeah. And like in the last 10 years, like I did like sets and props, art department on commercials for a little while. I worked at a t-shirt printing company for a while. I did a little catering, you know, gig here and there. And, you know,
do it all.
Sometimes it's just shit's slow and you just got to do what you got to do.
I mean, I've got friends that they go out in the Uber and they come back and, you know, you're just hustling. Just always hustling.
Yeah. It is nice to not have to have like a straight job, full-time thing. Like I don't know that I could ever go back to working somewhere ever again at this point in my life. I mean, I think I'm pretty lucky that I'll actually, you know, I'm not sure I would use the word lucky. I worked really fucking hard for the last 10 years to build up enough different art businesses that I think I can probably stave off working for somebody else for the rest of my life. But at the same time, when shit like this pandemic happens, like who fucking knows what the world's going to look like 6 months from now?
It's going to be different. I don't think anything.
There's no doubt about that.
Nothing's going to happen unless there's a vaccine. That's where I'm at. Like, all right. So you think you're going to get back together and hang out and side by side with somebody? That's great. That's great that you think that, but I don't.
Yeah, because, you know, I need one of my income streams is that I do merchandise for rock bands and touring bands and stuff, and ain't nobody touring. I actually had I had 4 different designs that had been submitted in the weeks just before everything got locked down. And it's like, those shirts are never going to, I mean, maybe if bands can tour again one day, they'll get used for something. But, I mean, they're just sitting there doing nothing right now, which sucks. And guess who didn't get paid for those? Because they didn't end up getting into production.
All right. Good job. We're winning.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Right now, I mean, that's just really what it came down to. Is I was like, fuck, I have all this time. I might as well try doing this podcast thing. I thought it was a fun idea, just as a way to like have something else to do, something new to learn. And now I'm like, I can just pour all my energy into it.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah, it's been a crash course the last couple of weeks. It's been really fun though. Me and my wife are both like, you know, tackling it like it's like, you know, like a team project. So that gives us something to do because, you know, like you have your wife and your kids, like, you know, my kids are all adults and they can't really come over. So I don't get to see anybody.
Yeah. You're just quarantining.
It's like the two of us. It's like the two of us. It's been awesome though. And you know, one of the thing with the movie reviews that's awesome is that, you know, I have movies I have to watch every night, you know.
Yeah, it's like, but also it's like we sit there and we go like, oh, you know, we'll have so much time to do other things and watch TV, and it's like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen. By the time the kids get to bed, you're like, ugh, I just need like an hour to decompress, and then I'm just gonna go to bed.
Right. I see your wife baking though, putting all the baked goods on Facebook, and I'm like, oh my God.
I'm gaining.
And you guys are just down the road. I'm like, would I go to jail if I went over there and tried to get a loaf of banana bread?
You can do a drop off. We've had some friends where I just put it out on my garage and come pick it up. So.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to take you up on that next time she goes on one of those sprees and like bakes more than you guys can eat.
Well, she's more into the baking part of it. We don't really eat it as much, so yeah, she's always cooking and baking.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I'm lucky. I'm a very lucky man.
Yeah, right, right, yeah. Um, she she works semi-regular as well, like in the film
She
and
has been
TV commercials.
very much lately. She's doing the mom thing, and then she's been in a couple
Right.
horror movies the last few months or so. She's been like doing that. She's got a horror movie coming out. Well, I
Oh,
have no
nice.
idea when it's coming out, but she actually had to do ADR work on it during the pandemic, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
all it was also like the same thing that you were describing about the vet, where she had to like sit in her car, wait, and do all that stuff, and they had to clean everything up before she could come in, and yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Um, so that have you have did you I know you worked on the Perry Mason thing, and you haven't gotten to see any full episodes yet or anything, have you? Because
No,
I'm
not at
dying. It
all.
actually looks
Not,
really, really good.
it does, and the thing I was when I was there, the thing I was like so interested in was the cars. Just the old
Right.
timey cars, and a lot of those cars they converted over to electric, just so it gets a
Oh,
lot
wow.
easier to use. But like most of the other cars they
Wow.
had was the real deal. So you had to like shift the
I,
gears and everything. It was pretty crazy.
that is crazy. I saw a friend of mine who lives down in Los Feliz, like where they just took Los Feliz Boulevard, or was it Havenhurst, or one of those, and they like for the shooting of that, where they just like turned the whole street into like 1932. What
Yeah,
is it? The 30s?
the
Is that
1931,
what?
32. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and like all the 30s like cars parked down all along the street there. That was totally killer. And it's the same thing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where they just turned like that block of Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard into like 1969. I love that shit. That's the thing I love about this town, is just that stuff where, you know, everybody else sees stuff in movies and TV shows, and there it could be anywhere as far as they know. And like you live in LA for any length of time, and you're like, fuck, I know exactly where that
Yeah,
is.
it's like
I've been to that place. Like, and then to see it turned back to 69, the interesting thing for me with that was that there were places they had to put back in business that were still open 25 years ago when I moved here, that are now closed.
yeah, like to the Tower Records and all that they brought back in, and
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Pussycat
Yep.
Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Um, Alan the one of the ways that me and Alan became friends was that Alan had a face. We have a mutual friend, and we became, we would always comment on this friend's Facebook posts, and then eventually just friend requested each other because we were always laughing at the what the other
I was
one
just like, I'm just friend
talking
requesting you.
shit.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm just friend requesting you. You're cool. So, I,
At least somebody thinks I'm
yeah,
fucking cool. Um, and then I found out that Alan had this Monday night movie club where every week he would post a movie, and then everybody would watch the movie and then go in the Facebook group and discuss the movie. And then like I think I was the unfortunate soul who like joined, and then the whole thing just kind of stopped happening.
yeah, it's just like we just got busy with other things, and
Yeah.
like the way the shift nights over, and it just got.
Right. Well, you
It
have
started off
kids.
great, and we were like, oh yeah, this is awesome, and we basically what we do is we watch a movie, an old movie. It has to be at least 25 years old, and
Oh.
then we talk about it. So we made it, at the end of every year, we're always like, oh, we can watch these movies now. It's like, so it got up into like 1999, and we're like, 25 years old, 20 years old. It was 20 years old, 20 years old. He's like, yeah, we can watch Fight Club now. We're so happy that we can watch Fight Club.
That's awesome. That is awesome, because that is a good movie. That's one of my favorite movies. I mean, obviously, I'm a dude of that age where that was like such an important movie at the time. It's a little bit in the modern times. It's a little bit weird with the way the world's just the the way the world is now versus where it was 20 years ago. It's just kind of
it's just different.
I just don't know. I don't know that you could make that movie now and have it ring the same way that it did then. But
it's just a different movie. I mean, it was before 9/11, so that's a different world right there. And then now we're in this pandemic, so like that's Jesus a different world Christ. Right there. So it's like,
what was the first film you were in?
The first film I was in out here was Teaching Mrs. Tingle. I did.
That was a horror movie, right? And the teacher was.
Yeah, it was the guy that did like Scream and all that stuff. Kevin Williamson, and I was like, I did extra work on it, and I had to be like, I think it was like 27 years old at the time, and I was like a high school student.
the magic of Hollywood at work.
Yeah. But like the first thing I ever did was like America's Most Wanted. I did all their the reenactments, and I was actually
no way.
I was a murderer.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I was a murderer, a carny murderer. And I think I'm still at large. I have no idea.
You were never apprehended.
Yeah, I was never apprehended. But yeah, it was so much fun to direct. I did direct it. It was so much fun to be in it. But the director of that piece was actually Christopher Coppola of the Coppola family.
Sure.
So that was my first thing I ever did. It was a pretty awesome experience.
So did they film all of that stuff in DC?
In Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would have never known that. I would have just assumed it was all in LA.
Yeah, all of that America's Most Wanted, they filmed it a lot in like the DC Baltimore area. So.
Wow. All right. You learn something new every day. Oh shit, there was something I was just going to ask you. I'm trying to think of what it was.
I don't know.
Well, you couldn't possibly know. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. So I think the movie club needs to come back just for my benefit, so I can feel like I was a part of it.
Yeah, I had like a DVD subscription service to Netflix, and I just canceled it because I was like, well, what am I gonna do with it? So, but once everything gets back to sort of where we can visit each other, and
were you actually having the DVDs still sent to you from Netflix?
Yeah,
the physical disc.
Yeah.
Was that the same idea as the cassette tapes in the newspaper?
Well, I found that on the streaming of Netflix, I could get all the really classic films that I wanted, and through the DVD portion of Netflix, I could. So I got it.
Interesting.
So I re-upped my service for the DVDs again. Yeah, but you put the DVD in there and you put it back in the envelope and send it away. So, once again, it's the whole process. My kids loved it. So
that's okay. I have like every fucking streaming service on earth because I'm in the art studio all day, and I run movies on the studio TV. I did for years. So I have like Amazon Prime, I have Hulu, I have
I got it all.
Netflix, and I have all of it, and it's like I pretty much get anything I want at this point. I kind of switched, I guess about a year ago. I just switched over to like listening to podcasts and music in the studio. Like I haven't watched a movie in this art studio, I don't think, in like a year and a half, which is weird because I used to work I had this shit hole, half a garage in East Hollywood for years. That was my art studio, and I had a TV in there, and it was like I would do like I would like binge like Sopranos and like watch the entire 7 seasons in like in a week,
Right.
Or just like movies. And my wife is being in the industry. We get the Oscar screeners every year. So I just go in there and just like burrow through all the screeners that came. That is my favorite perk of being married to my wife is the screeners for sure. It's like Christmas for me. Like
yeah, I'm with the TV Academy, so I get all the Emmy stuff.
You don't get films from SAG stuff? Or?
No, it's all TV stuff. Oh, I mean, I still do get SAG stuff around award time, but
you get the other stuff for TV as well.
TV. But the thing is, they just this year they stopped doing DVDs, so everything's
it's all streaming now.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, they did that with some of. I think it was either Warner or Universal did that with the Oscar screeners, and it was like there was no easy way for us to stream that stuff, so we just didn't end up watching those movies. You know,
you gotta make it convenient. You just do. When they're like, "Oh, right. You can go here and do this and watch that," I'm like, "No, I'm not going to vote for you unless you bring it into my house." So.
Right. It was like one of those things where I would have to mirror my device to the Fire TV, and I was like, you know, if I was like 25, I would totally know how to do that, but I'm fucking 50, and I absolutely do not know how to do that. And now watch, like, when this episode goes online, like 1,000 dickheads in the comments will be like, "This is how you do it, dumbass." And I have to hear from a bunch of 25 and 30-year-olds. What a dipshit old guy. Okay, boomer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, it getting old is getting old.
I don't know. I just don't feel it. So, yeah, I just am, I guess.
Right.
I still think
age is just a number.
The head thinks it's still like in its 20s or teens or whatever,
dude,
but body doesn't.
That is a super weird thing.
Body doesn't think so.
Like, yeah, you stay in good shape though, man. When I ran into you at Corky's, I was like, damn, that kid's in good fucking shape, man.
Yeah, you know, I do all right, but that's also like having we were talking about kids earlier, I think off camera, and I had my kids older, and you had your kids younger, but me having my kids older, I'm like, well, shit, I gotta stay in shape. I can't let myself go at all, you know. I don't want to be an old man in the corner going, yeah. I'll play.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. I was, you know, I had all three of mine by the time I was 25. And when my boys were like 5, 6, 7 years old and they discovered my skateboard, I just got to go, you know, I was in my 20s and 30s, and I just got to go skateboard every weekend. We'd just go to different skate parks every Sunday. We'd get up early. We'd find a different park we hadn't been to, and we'd head out, and we'd just get to skate together all day, which was the best part of parenting for me. Not because I got to skateboard, but because I got to do something every weekend.
Right.
That I could participate with my kids directly. Like, I didn't sit and watch them play baseball. You know what I mean? Like, we were skating together every weekend. And then I built a half pipe at the house, so I'd get home from work, and you know, as soon as I'd get home, they'd be standing there with their pads and helmets on, like, "We got to show you what we learned. We got to show you." And I had a chair on top of the platform of the half pipe, and I'd just like grab a beer and sit up there and, you know, decompress from my day and watch them skate. It was pretty amazing. Like, I really, really miss that about having little kids. But hey, I mean, before too long, I'll be having grandkids because all my kids are starting to get married and stuff.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I went to my reunion, like, I went to, it was like a mini reunion. I didn't go to my actual reunion, but the mini reunion, people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm a grandfather now," and blah, blah, blah. Like, I just had a kid. Like,
yeah, I see my friends who like are having, like, you know, getting remarried and having more kids, like women who are getting remarried and having another kid, like in their late 40s, or like guys who are getting remarried and like having kids with the new wife, and they're like, you know, 50, and I'm like, fuck. I couldn't even imagine. I guess if I had never done it, I'd be, it'd be a different thing, but starting all over again right now, like, oh my God.
I've been changing diapers for over 5 years. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, no, you're not. We actually, you are about done, aren't you?
The other one's he's just became potty trained, but he's still like, I got to wear diapers for this, and he's still in transition. But yeah, 5 years of that. Oof.
Yeah, no shit. And it just turns into something else, and then it turns into something else, and then they become teenagers, and then you just want to kill yourself like every single day.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
I thought I'd just throw that fucking turd in your punch bowl. So the other thing, there was another thing that I was going to bring up. Also between me and you, I can fucking edit shit out. So I'm trying to think of the thing that I was going to fucking ask you about, and I will just cut this part out.
It's this blank dead air.
Yeah. Fuck, what was it? There was like some other Facebook. Was it I think it was the other Facebook group, the monologue one.
Oh yeah, the quarantine monologue.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do another clap so I can find this spot and cut it out.
Okay.
So here. So yeah, Alan also has this other Facebook group that is the quarantine monologue group, where different actors will film themselves doing a monologue and then post it, and everybody kind of critiques it and stuff. And I have no reason to be in that group because I'm never going to record a monologue to post in there. But I was so fascinated to watch what you and your wife were doing that I joined the group, and it's been amazing watching everybody do that.
Well, it's great because also my whole thing about putting that group together was like, hey, the new way is we're going to be building our own home studios. So let's see what you can do with your home studio. And if your lighting's not right or your sound's not right, maybe we can help fix it. So that's my thing. I'm looking at the technical aspects of it. And my wife's looking at it like, I just want to work and I just want to do monologues and things like that. And then, I of course want to do monologues, but I'm more like, how do I perfect my self-tapes? Because that's what it's going to be. It's like, it's going to be all these self-tapes. So how do I it looks? And so, I'm constantly tweaking and working on it. So to try to get the best possible video that is out there. So
yeah, my wife works on a Netflix show, and one of the actresses on that show just relocated to Oklahoma a while ago because all of her audition stuff is just she just records herself and sends it in. She's like, I don't have to be in LA unless I'm working, so I can go live in Oklahoma. It costs half as much, and then I'll just send in my auditions, and when it's time when I get cast, I'll just go to LA, get a place at Oakwood Apartments or whatever, and fucking, Yep. And that's like the weird thing about the world now, though, right? Is like kind of everything is starting to be that way. And now with this quarantine, it's shown that everything can be that way.
Everything really is.
So much stuff can be that way.
Yeah. The big thing that you have to brace yourself for is like commercials are probably going to do that. I mean, they're probably going to, like, you get an audition, you go to the place, audition, then you come back home. But now with this, they're just going to be, okay, here's your tape, you do this, submit it to here, and that's it. So you won't leave in your house,
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Yeah, because my wife does hair, and so it's just a matter of how long is this going to go before, because they have to be within, fucking 36 inches of everybody all day long, and they're going to be like the last ones that are able to go back to work out of everybody anywhere.
I was reading like Variety and Hollywood Reporter about like, oh, what's going to happen when everyone comes back. And I think one of the things was like, what was it? Oh, is that everybody would be in quarantine together like everybody at like a hotel or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
I'm like, oh my goodness, that's just
That they're gonna like you're gonna show up on set, they're gonna test you, and then if you test negative, you can work.
well, it's funny because they're always like, well, and then guys won't have makeup at all, and women they'll just do the makeup that day, and I'm like, well, they never do makeup for me anyhow, so they always look at me and they go, oh, you're good. So I was always like, okay, sure.
You're all great. I'm naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Oh,
One of the things the reason that I brought up the monologue, that monologue page, aside from the fact that it's fucking totally cool to watch working actors work, you did one of the monologues that Quint from Jaws, the yo now how I do earn my living,
yeah.
and that is in my top 3 movies. And it's one of those, like, I have like 3 favorite movies, and if I'm watching that movie, it's my favorite movie. And you know what I mean? So I think I've seen Jaws more times than any other movie, and you did a very, very good job. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Because it could have very easily gone wrong, and I could have been very annoyed with you.
Well, my thing is, like, I don't want to do it the way he did it because that's Robert Shaw. It's like, I'm just doing my interpretation of that character and how he would do it. And it's funny because it's like I haven't seen Jaws in years, but
why? That's a shame.
I know it is, but I remember it and everything. But like the COVID stuff, like there's a lot of stuff about opening the beaches and blah blah blah. That's lots of similarities. And,
a lot of parallels.
A lot of parallels to it. So I was like, oh, maybe I should just like revisit this. The Robert Shaw character. So
you need with that beard and glasses. Now you got to do Hooper next.
Oh
right?
Yeah, there's that monologue. There's that monologue he does in the boat about the USS Indianapolis.
That's one of the greatest monologues in the history of film.
Oh my!
It might be the greatest monologue in the history of film.
So good. The shark's eyes, the doll's eyes. It's so good, and like, but it's so long. I'm like, why? That's a gargantuan.
You're like, I got a lot of free time, but I don't got all the free time.
And you can't do like, well, maybe I'll do a little bit tonight and then get back. It's like, no, you got to go.
Yeah, you got to hit that one all in one shot.
Yeah, it's like a 6-minute monologue. So I'm like, I don't know.
Has anybody posted the Alec Baldwin, Glenn Ross monologue yet? Because that would be a doozy.
No, they haven't done that one either.
If I'm giving out requests, I want to see your wife do that one.
Somebody requested that I do the Reservoir Dogs one, where it's talking about his story. The story that the fake story.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part of that movie. Actually,
the dogs and the police officer going
so good.
So he wants me to do that monologue. So,
well, if you do it, make sure that you tag me because I would definitely want to watch that.
Right? Yeah, that's another one where I'm like, I don't know. I'll see.
It's such a good one. Tarantino's, it's dialogue heavy films that, there's a lot. If you were looking for monologues to do, there's a lot in his library of books that you could pull from for sure.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of films out there.
For sure. Oh God. Yeah. I'm like a total fucking film nerd. So, I know. And that's like a funny thing is that, I have so many fucking DVDs, and now that everything I own I can kind of stream, I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do with all these things?
Well, I have the same problem. Like when my stepfather, he died about 10 years ago, but he was a huge DVD collector, and when he died, I had all these DVDs, and I was like, what do I do with these? Like, So I like whittled it down, and I was like, well, I can sell these back and keep these. So I kept them, and then I put them in the garage, and like through this quarantine thing, I went out there and found them again, and I'm going like, well, it was actually those DVDs were the beginning of the classic film Night, whereas I have all these old DVDs, like let's watch them and talk about them. But now, like all these DVDs are not Blu-ray. So watch them, you're like, this sounds terrible. But I can watch the thing on Netflix or on HBO Go, and it's beautiful, Right. So I'm like, why do I have these DVDs now? So I have to go through a whole like cleaning again.
Right. I think that one of the things with making this podcast that I had to get was like a file converter, and so its whole entire job is to just convert one file format to another. But one of the benefits of it is it has a DVD ripping software. So I think maybe I'm just going to start
put everything,
converting them all over into files, stick them on a hard drive, and then just connect that to my PlayStation 2 and just watch movies. Just have them digital and then it was like, maybe I'll like open an Amazon store or an eBay shop and just try to sell all of these over the course of the next fucking rest of my life that it will take to sell the fucking several hundred DVDs that I have.
Well, I mean, there was just a huge jump in technology from Blu-ray, from old way to the Blu-ray, for like 480 to Blu-ray. It's right. Huge. The difference is huge. And when I'm looking at all these, like I have Scarface and it's like special director's edition, but yeah, you're like, it's crappy. You're like, ugh.
Dude, totally. I had like 3 versions of Scarface on DVD because it was like I bought it as soon as I got a DVD player and that was available. I bought it, and then I bought like the super version, and then I got like the Criterion special edition version, and then as soon as I got a Blu-ray player, the first the Blu-ray I bought was Scarface and Jaws. Those like the first 2 Blu-rays I had.
Yeah, I should really like sit down and watch Jaws again. It's great.
I mean, I always recommend it.
Jaws is a really great film, but
I actually really like Jaws 2 and Jaws 3
in 3D
for totally different reasons than I like the first movie. The second movie is just the first movie over again with slightly small details that are changed. It was the weirdest cash in. They're just like, well, we'll just make the same movie over again, and we'll just put the kids in different danger, And it's like, why the fuck did you do that? And then the third one is just fucking bonkers with the 3D and.
Yeah, I saw the second one at a drive-in when I was like freaking 7, 8 years old.
Sure.
My dad would scare the crap out of me during that. He would always go like, "Shark's coming to get you," like, da da, and he would grab a leg and. It was like, stop it! What are you doing?
Dads are good for that kind of shit. And now it's your turn to do that same shit to your. Yeah, and the only one of the Jaws movies that I refuse to even really acknowledge is the fourth one, because that movie is terrible by any movie standards, let alone a Jaws movie standard.
But Jaws 3 was pretty terrible too.
Yeah, but so bad it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I did see that in 3D, so.
Yeah, I definitely did too. I think we must have been in high school when that was in.
Pre-high school-ish.
Yeah. The thing that is amazing about that is like the level of talent that was in that movie, like, Leah Thompson and Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
Like there was Lou Gossett. and then what's her name? Tess Armstrong. She was really good. We're watching the new season of Bosch right now, and she's got a part on that. She's always really good too.
Cool.
So I think we're gonna wrap it up with Alan Heitz. I appreciate you coming on, man. It was super fun having you on. And tell your wife that I'm going to book her as well
yeah.
sometime soon. What are all your social medias?
I am on Instagram as Heitzagram, Heitzagram. I am on Twitter as Heitzy, Heitzie. And Facebook, Alan Heitz.
Awesome. So yeah, remember you guys, Perry Mason comes out on June 21st. Alan's got a bit in that, and keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thanks, Alan. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was great. Fun.